So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Welcome back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, July 20th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, July 20th here today, coming off of another baseball night last night, another night full of baseball. The Mets were on. They got the win in 11 innings as they beat the Cincinnati Reds 15-11. It was a slugfest. It was just a game full of home runs, a game full of runs, and a game full of home runs, a game full of scoring, a game full of a lot of big hits, and as we all know, that's considered not a pitching duel. You know, those people out there that like the close 2-1, 3-2, 1-0 games, that Mets-Cincinnati Reds game last night is not the game that you would want to be watching. Went into 11 innings. The New York Mets had a big win for them, coming off of a tough series in Pittsburgh, losing the series. Salvaging the final game of the 3-game set, but still, still losing the series to one of the worst teams in the MLB is very disappointing. And they were able to clearly put that in hindsight, put that in a rearview mirror. Forget about that series and move on to this series. And that's kind of what the mindset of the New York Mets had to be going into yesterday's game was. We got to just forget about the series that happened on Pittsburgh. We got to forget about that. That was not a good series. It was ugly. It was not good. A lot of stuff happened. You had the benches clearing ball. You had, Luis Rojas getting ejected. You had the whole foul ball play that happened, which is the play that Luis Rojas got ejected on. You had, all this stuff that happened. It was just not a successful weekend for the Mets, to say the least, even though they come back and won the final game of the 3-game set against that Pittsburgh Pirates team. That should be a sweep. They didn't get the job done. And, the Mets, go into, go to the Reds, go to Cincinnati, and last night they got the job done. And, that's a win that is very big. Those are some of those wins. You talk about, week-changing, month-changing games, season-changing wins. Last night was not a season-changing win. I don't think now they're all of a sudden going to win 10 straight. But you talk about how, all of a sudden these next couple weeks could have went. They look like they might have been going south after that Pittsburgh series and the injuries, and Lindor now down, and everyone, hyping up his second half return. And no, that last night, though, was a very big win for the New York Mets. They got the win 15-11, 11 innings. It was a long game, a lot of scoring, plus the extra innings. So, talk about baseball and their long games and all that stuff. Last night was one of them. Yankees play today against the Phillies. They will start up a quick 2-game set today and tomorrow. Obviously, when ALNL Yankees had a 2-game set in Philly earlier this year, they got swept. So I guess you can kind of say they're 0-2 so far. They got swept the 2-game set there, and the Yankees are now home against the Phillies. So a 2-game set starting tonight, and then they head to Boston for a 4-game set starting on Thursday that will go all the way into the weekend. And then so on and so forth. Day off, I believe, and then it's the Rays and then the trade deadline. And we are now 10 days away from the MLB trade deadline, and we are only a week away from the New York Jets reporting to training camp. Tomorrow, all of the Cowboys and Steelers will report. I believe July 25th, the Buccaneers report. And July 27th, the rest of the NFL teams report. I believe today, rookies for the Jets, Giants, Ravens report. I believe today, rookies will report for those teams. It's kind of weird how the whole scheduling thing is with all the report times and stuff like that. All I know is July 27th, Jets and the remaining 29 NFL teams outside of the Raiders, Steelers, and Cowboys will, or the remaining 28 teams rather, the rest of the 29 NFL teams will go to training camp July 27th. So a week away from the Jets having everyone at training camp. So that's exciting. something to look forward to. And obviously, like I mentioned, we'll get to a lot of that when that comes around. Like I mentioned, Mets second game today of the 3-game set. Yankees play today. Bucks Suns game 6 tonight in Milwaukee. Bucks go for the series win, and Suns just looking to force a game 7 back in Phoenix. We'll see how that plays out. Suns got to be way better, and I know that might sound like a Captain Obvious answer, but it's the truth. The Suns have to play like they played in the first 2 games of this series, and they have not looked anything like the Phoenix Suns the last 3 games of this series. And it's the truth. They've looked nowhere close. I mean, it's not even like they looked bad. They've been really bad. But the Bucks have been very good, don't get me wrong. But the Suns, they're on another level. I mean, they can't have any way to stop Giannis. They haven't found a way to really come up with the big shot late in the game. They are letting up big shots late in games. They're close late in games. They're not being able to finish it off. So the Suns need to get the job done tonight, or else their season's over and the Bucks are NBA champions. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. As I mentioned, with the Mets, you had the ejection that happened against Pittsburgh. Well, yesterday was announced that Luis Rojas got a 2-game suspension. I wanted to get into his suspension, talk about it, talk about kind of what it means, my thoughts on the play. I know it was Sunday the play happened. I understand that, and it's kind of already in the rear view, but I did want to still talk about it. I wanted to kind of talk about the play, and in a way, how Luis Rojas getting ejected could have really helped out the Mets, because sometimes getting ejected, sometimes the guy going out there and, arguing and trying to get the team fired up does get the team fired up. So I want to get into this. I also kind of want to talk a little bit just about the Mets in general. So probably about the first 10 minutes of talking about this, I'll talk about Luis Rojas getting suspended. And then after I read this quick article, I'll probably talk more about kind of the Mets and their things. But we'll see how it all goes. It's really whatever I end up talking about. So then I kind of want to get a little bit about the Mets too. They won, obviously, and I kind of want to talk about just their win last night. Rojas is when he'll technically come back, and all that stuff. So I wanted to get into that. I did hear that Aaron Rodgers had a contract offer. About his he had a very big contract offer that he wanted to, or there was a 2-year deal that he was. There was a big mega 2-year deal that I guess would have made him the highest paid NFL player in the league. That I heard about really just before I came on the podcast. So I didn't really have too much time to prepare for it. Didn't have much to really think about what to say. Although I kind of already know what I wanted to say. With Aaron Rodgers, it's one of these things where it's kind of getting a little old. It's like just stuff every day. There's something new with him, and nothing's making progress. So today I'm not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Instead, I'm going to talk about the Knicks offseason rumors. I wanted to get to kind of just some of their rumors, some of the guys they could look at. Just in general, kind of what the Knicks could do this offseason, because there's been a lot of rumors around Damian Lillard, Colin Sexton. We're hearing stuff about Lonzo Ball, right? We're hearing a lot of different rumors, and they all kind of correlate to the New York Knicks. We've heard that the Knicks are interested in Colin Sexton, and the Knicks would be interested in Damian Lillard. So I kind of want to get into that, are they going to go out and make that big splash with a trade or in free agency? Get into that, because the Aaron Rodgers stuff, as much as I find it very interesting that he declined a mega 2-year deal, it's kind of something I've talked about a ton already, and it's kind of like this. I'm probably going to say about the same thing, where, I don't think, you know how I stand on the Aaron Rodgers thing. It's either he plays or he doesn't. At this point, it's kind of getting a little old. I might talk about it tomorrow. I might get to it tomorrow. I don't know. I have some other topics too that are lined up to talk about. But for today, I'm going to talk about the Knicks offseason rumors instead. So then we'll get to the New York sports update. Yankees play today, obviously, against the Phillies. Mets play against the Reds. Suns, Bucks tonight. Bucks going for the win. Suns trying just trying their best to force a Game 7. All they got to do is just find a way to force a Game 7. And it's kind of funny because I remember talking about this series, and boy was I wrong. And we all can agree. I mean, I've been wrong before, but when the Suns took a 2-0 lead, you're like, all they got to do is win one in Milwaukee, and they can head home with a 3-1 lead. They didn't do that. Then they lost Game 5 at home, which is just terrible. Then you have Game 6. I said that the longest this series could go is to Game 7, and we might have a Game 7. If the Suns win tonight, we'll have a Game 7. But we'll see. We'll see how the rest. We'll see how everything else goes. Bucks just got to continue. The Bucks just got to continue to do what they're doing, because right now they are just pounding the Suns right now, and it's clear when you watch the games. So with all that being said, I wanted to get in. Let's get to the podcast, and this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So Mets Luis Rojas suspended after ejection over Taijuan Walker play versus Pirates. And, yes, as we all know, we heard about the play, or at least you saw the play, or you know about the play that unfolded between the New York Mets and the Pittsburgh Pirates on Sunday. That was obviously the third game of the three-game set, which the Mets were able to come back from a 6-0 deficit and were able to win against the Pirates and salvage the final game of that three-game set. Now, if you're a New York Met fan, that Pirates series is now in the rear view. That's one of those things that you kind of have to forget about. You beat the Cincinnati Reds last night 15-11, and now it's time to move forward. But yesterday we got word that Luis Rojas, who on this very weird play that I'm going to get to, got suspended after the play. So he got suspended 2 games for excessive arguing, is what they're calling it, with the umpire. Now, this play is a very interesting play. It is a play that is wild. It is a play that we don't see often. It is one of those in-between type plays where I guess it's kind of your opinion. It's not really, it's not a fair or foul ball. It's kind of your opinion, whether you think it was on the line, whether you think it was just before. I don't think anyone thought it was completely in fair territory, because from what I saw, I did not think it was completely in fair territory. But either way, Luis Rojas clearly made his presence felt and clearly felt that it was not in fair territory. So what happened is obviously Taijuan Walker delivered the pitch. He was in a jam. I forget. It might have been like second and third, first and third, something like that. Delivered a pitch. It was a little slow chopper. Not even like halfway down the third base line. Not even like 50, 60 feet down the third base line. Obviously, not even like 50 feet down the third base line. It was a very slow chopper. And from what I saw, from what I was looking at, now this is the replay. I don't have 50 different angles. I don't got an angle from center field. I don't have an angle from right field. I had the normal angle that the replay showed on SNY. It looked like a foul ball to me. Now what happened is Taijuan Walker thought it was a foul ball. He kind of took his glove, and I don't really know what Taijuan Walker was doing, because he kind of like tossed it out of play. But it was kind of like, it was weird, because like I don't know why he would do that anyway. He should just grab it with his glove and take it back to the mound. I think sometimes if the ball is in the dirt, if it gets scuffed, they throw him out of play. But I mean, like that's a normal ball. Like that's an infield ground ball that a player can make a play on. I thought it was interesting what Taijuan Walker did. He kind of took his glove and tossed it out of play. I don't think he should have did that. That is a part where I don't understand. Now, I get it. He thought it was a foul ball. But either way, I don't know why he took his glove and kind of like pushed it like out of play. And then, obviously, they called it fair. And, they called it, a fair ball and stuff like that. And then, it was one of those things where it was I forget what exactly the runner was on. I forget exactly what the runners were on. I think it was like second and third, or maybe it was bases loaded. I think it might have actually been bases loaded. And at the time, it was a 3-0 game, and then all 3 runners scored home. It was 6-0, and then things went wild after that. And it was a little blooper. It's a little ground ball down the third base line that Walker thought was foul ball. And sure enough, it was not a foul ball. And and right after the foul ball, or right after the fair ball that Walker thought was a foul ball, he, instead of getting the ball, which is another part where I disagree with, he, instead of going back and getting the baseball, he ended up going up to the ump and started to argue with him, and that's when the merry-go-round started, and that's when they started to score a bunch of runs, and they just were clearing the bases. I believe that hitter got like a double or a triple off of that little infield ball, or off that little infield single, and all 3 runs scored. It was 6-0, and the Mets are lucky they come back, because you look at that play that happened with Taijuan Walker. You look at that play, and that's like a play where, You look back on that game and it's 6-0 and you lose that game, that's a play that changes that game. If Walker just grabs the ball and goes with it, maybe only 1 run scores, maybe he gets the guy out at home, right? That's a game, that's a difference maker in that game. That's a game-changing type play, is what I wanted to say there. And luckily, the Mets were able to come back, or else this would have been blown. And this is one of these plays, too, that kind of gets lost because the Mets were able to come back. They were able to defeat the Pittsburgh Pirates. He obviously had the big Michael Conforto home run late in that game. He had a home run again last night. It seems like he's been better recently. It seems like he's been starting to hit a little bit better. But you're lucky that they didn't lose this game if you're a Met fan, because this would be a play that is really going to get talked about. This would be a play that's going to get talked about even more than what it's getting talked about now. And obviously, if you're a manager, you're going to go out and back up your players. You're not going to just leave your players on an island all by themselves, even if you don't completely agree with the call, agree with the call, even if you don't completely disagree with the call, rather, like, let's just say they make a call and it's not like you're not terribly mad over it, but your player's mad, you're still going to go out there and fight for your player. You're still going to go out there, show that you have your players back. Taijuan Walker was out there arguing with the umpires. Luis Rojas is not just going to sit in the dugout and watch him arguing with him while they're running around the bases. And Luis Rojas came out, and he made his presence felt. He got right up in the umpire's face. I guess what they wanted to call excessive arguing was, I guess he made contact with the umpire, which technically you're not supposed to do in baseball, although it seems to happen a lot. And he made contact with the umpire. He was yelling at him. They actually had to restrain him from the umpire because he was really fired up. And I don't blame him. Like I said, I kind of disagree with the call they made as well. And I thought they made the call a little early too. It was right off the bat and boom, they made the call. You gotta, let's see where the ball goes. Let's see what spin it's got on it. Let's see where it goes. And obviously Luis Rojas was mad and he was right up in the umpire's face. And this is something too that even though he got ejected, and even though at the time he got ejected, it's in the bottom of the first. It's in the first inning where things are not going right. It's 6-0 Pirates. You're at this point in the game 6-0. If you're a New York Met fan, you're sitting here and wow, we're gonna get swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates. And obviously they ended up coming back, but Luis Rojas, not only did he go out, and not that this was in his mind, but this had to be kind of a thought process of any guy on the bench or maybe even his thought process. We're losing 6-0. We're getting beat really badly to a very bad team. Now, yes, they've got a couple all-stars, Brian Reynolds, Adam Frazier. They've got a couple young players on that team that could do some damage, but they're nowhere close to a playoff team. They're nowhere close to a contending team. It's a team who last season went 19-41. Okay, this season they're not doing great either. Luis Rojas, in the back of his mind, it had to be, I got to get this team fired up. We look flat. Coming out of the All-Star break, we look flat right now. And, we look flat. We don't look good. We lost on Friday. We lose on Saturday. And we're right now 6-0 in the bottom of the first. This is as bad as it can get. We're not hitting. We look lost. We look like we're sleepwalking. I got to go out there, fight this call. I got to go out there and try to get this energy up in the clubhouse and the dugout. Because I'll tell you what. The Mets, the energy level was very low on that Mets team in the weekend. They just seemed like they were flat. They were playing like they were still on the All-Star break. They were flat out terrible. And Luis Rojas, I think, knew that he's got to do something about it. Not only did he disagree with the call, but he's got to go out and try to, get some energy into his team. Because right now, the Mets looked flat. They looked dead. They were not playing good baseball. They were not having any energy. And sure enough, after that Luis Rojas ejection, it seemed like all of a sudden the momentum turned towards the Mets' favor a little bit. And sure enough, the Mets go on and salvage the final game of the 3-game set. And, like I mentioned earlier to start off the podcast, when I told you I was going to talk about this, you talk about season-changing times or, game-changing moments. This was a game-changing moment. Do I think this is something that's going to save the Mets season? No, because the Mets right now are not having a bad year. I wouldn't say this is something that the Mets are going to save their season. It's not like the Mets are 30-50 and they're in the bottom of the NL East and they can't beat the Miami Marlins. It's not like that. They are not. They're not the best team in the MLB. No, they are not in a. I would say they're not in a position to get too comfortable. Right, the Phillies, Nationals, teams like that, they could still make a push. Phillies, I believe, are only 2-3 games back. So in terms of like a season-saving move, this is not that. Because it's not like the Mets were done, they were terrible, and they just aren't winning ball games. No, they're winning games. It's just you can't come out of the All-Star break and be terrible. And, I mean, you talk about a big series in July. That was a big series there. All of a sudden, when you lost that first game and you lost the second game, you had to find a way to salvage that third game. You cannot possibly. Like, I talked about it a couple of days ago. When I talked about the Mets, I said that Pittsburgh Pirates series should be the easiest win. Like, that should be a sweep, no doubt about it. And if you get swept, well, that's an issue. And then obviously the Mets too got the news that Jacob deGrom's forearm, he had forearm issues, so he went on the IL. A lot went on in that Pirates series. And the Mets just seemed like coming out of the All-Star break, you're supposed to be, coming out of the All-Star break, it's supposed to be like a fresh start. You forget about what happened in the first half of the season, forget about everything that happened in April, May, June, and the early parts of July, and you focus up on the second half of the season. I've always said that. As a fan, I've always kind of thought as the second half of the season as a new season. Forget about the first half. Your record is now 0-0, and you go from here, right? And that's what a lot of times teams do. And some of the young teams, too, that are trying to show growth, trying to show that they are going to be competitive. If they were terrible in the first half, at least if you come out in the second half and you're more competitive and you compare the records from the first and second half, well, you have something positive to carry into the offseason. That's how I've always looked at it. And if you're a team like the Yankees that's making a push, well, now's your time. You need to make a push. Team like the Mets that's still trying to stay in first place, well, now's the time to continue to play good baseball and stay in first place. And, right now, that Pirates series wasn't looking good. And the Yankees and the Mets kind of had similar situations coming out of the All-Star break. Like the Yankees were supposed to play on Thursday. It was a fresh start. You get your rivalry against the Red Sox. And all of a sudden, the Yankees had a COVID situation. And then the Mets, right? You come off, you play the Pirates, a golden opportunity to take 3 games from them, then head to Cincinnati, and they're, a pretty good team. They're beatable, but they're not the Pirates. And then you lose 2 out of 3. And deGrom's on the IL, and then you have the issues with the manager, you have the ejection, and then you have the play. And, I definitely think, although Luis Rojas, a lot of Mets fans have mixed opinions on him, and I would tend to say I have a mixed opinion on him, I definitely agree what he did. And I think I definitely would say that he might have over-argued a little bit on that play just to try to get the team really fired up. And I mean, I don't know if you want to call the 2-game suspension worth it, but they were able to get the win. And Taijuan Walker did say that it definitely, got some energy in that dugout. Because that dugout needed energy badly, and they were able to get it. Luis Rojas, like I said, he's not a household favorite around Met fans. I believe they have a lot of different mixed opinions on Luis Rojas. I think some of them are content with him. I think some of them feel okay with him as manager. Or do they love Luis Rojas? Do they feel like he's going to lead them to a World Series? No. But I would definitely say some Mets fans despise him, and I would say some Mets fans are okay with him. I don't think there's many Met fans out there that really like Luis Rojas and want him to stay forever. He's not that good of a coach, but I don't think he's that bad either. I mean, he was kind of thrown into the fire. You hired Beltran, then all the Astros Stein stealing scandal happened, and then he gets hired, and then, you go into last season, which was a super weird year, and then it's a new owner, and now he's if you think about it, Luis Rojas in his 2 years as a manager have been through a lot. This was a guy who was not even supposed to be the manager. He kind of just got thrown into the fire, and he hasn't done a terrible job. He's not done a great job. He's done I mean, he's been It will be interesting to see what Steve Cohen does at the end of this year, because you would think that Steve Cohen might want to hire his own manager. I mean, I would say if the Mets miss the playoffs, he's definitely gone. Now, if the Mets make the playoffs, you got to, I guess, Steve Cohen, I definitely think's got some sort of mandate set. I think, I think he's definitely got some sort of mandate set. I mean, if they make the playoffs and maybe they get, they lose wild card, maybe get rid of them, or if they don't make the playoffs at all. We'll see how it all plays out, but I definitely think that ejection single-handedly really helped out the Mets. So Mets Luis Rojas suspended after ejection over Taijuan Walker play versus Pirates. New York Mets manager Luis Rojas has been suspended 2 games and was fined an undisclosed amount for excessive arguing during Sunday's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, per Anthony DiComo of MLB.com. Rojas will serve his suspension beginning with Monday night's game against the Cincinnati Reds. The manager was ejected in the first inning of Sunday's game after arguing against a fair call by the home plate umpire. Mets pitcher Taijuan Walker pushed the ball away with his glove when he thought it went foul, but the replay showed it stayed on the line. The mistake allowed 3 runs to score to create an early 6-0 deficit for the team. New York eventually rallied for a 7-6 victory. While Rojas' antics have led to extra punishment, the animated performance might have helped the team. I think he just got everyone fired up in the dugout, Walker said after the game, per Disha Thozar of the New York Daily News. According to John Heyman of MLB Network, one Pirates player said the Mets were sleepwalking through the weekend until Rojas was ejected. As I mentioned, it looked like they weren't. It looked like they were still on All-Star break. Like it looked like they didn't even. It looked like they did not get back. Like it looked like the Mets thought they were still on vacation. It seriously did. They were not having good at bats. They were not doing anything good. They weren't. They were terrible. I mean, they were straight out bad. The Mets, currently in first place in the NL East, had lost each of the first 2 games of the series to the Pirates, which are currently in last place in the NL Central. With a 6-0 early deficit appeared likely to be a sweep and 4 straight losses to Pittsburgh, including Sunday's collapse. Yeah, they blew a 5-0 lead on Sunday, which was the game before the All-Star break. New York was able to respond with an important win to maintain a 2-game lead over the Phillies in the division. Bench coach Dave Jouse served as interim manager after Rojas was ejected Sunday and should remain in the role to begin the series against Cincinnati. Dave Jouse also was the pitcher for Pete Alonso in the Home Run Derby. Now, that suspension tonight looks like will be it. So after tonight, his 2-game suspension will be up, and he got fined. And it says Rojas has been suspended 2 games and was fined an undisclosed amount for excessive arguing. So I'm not sure what the amount is. Obviously, it's undisclosed. I mean, with these guys' contracts, especially when it happens to players, with their contracts being so big, a lot of times when they get fined, it's like a penny out of their bank account. It ain't much. It's nothing major. It's usually something very minor, and they pay the fine and they move on with it. But Rojas will be back tomorrow, it looks like, for the 3rd game of that set. Today will be Dave Jouse again. So 2-game suspension. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see what Rojas thinks. I mean, I guess it was kind of worth it in a way because it was able to get the team fired up, and it looked like he did disagree with the call. I mean, you won't know. He won't tell you. There's a chance that he didn't fully, really see the play much. Like, he saw the play, but, he probably just kind of went ahead and, backed up Taijuan Walker. But I think it was also the fact that he was just all out, like, just going all out on the umpire. And I think, like I mentioned, part of that was to get the team fired up. I think that was. I mean, I don't think he was purposely trying to, I think he was trying to get the team fired up. I don't think he was just going out there to fight for no reason. I think he genuinely wanted to get the team fired up, especially after the comments of those Pirates players, which might have been made after that game. But either way, Pirates players clearly saw it too. Luis Rojas saw it. Mets fans saw it. A lot of people saw it. I saw it. The Mets were not playing good baseball. They were sleepwalking. It really looked like that. And obviously they were able to get the win, 7-6, and they won yesterday too, 15-11. So, for a team right now that, definitely that, you look at a big, you don't usually call a win against the Pirates a big win, considering those should be easy wins. But if you think about it, that's a pretty big win now. Because now you look at it, they're 49-42. They are 2.5 games up in the division, and they are 5-5 in their last 10, and they've won 2 straight. Now, the Phillies right now are red hot. They're 7-3, and they've won 2 straight. Now, they do have to go visit the Yankees. We'll see how that goes. But, the Mets got to continue to try and find ways to win, especially without DeGrom now being back on the IL, another injury that, might be another small one, but it's not the big thing. We'll see what it all is. Mets-Reds today, then Mets-Reds again tomorrow, and then, like I mentioned, I read the schedule again, 3 against the Blue Jays. I mean, this is a Mets team that's, it's a Mets team that has just got to, this is just a team that just gotta continue to find ways, this is a team that's just got to continue to try to find ways to win. And last night they did that, and they were able to find a way to win again. And they were able to win in comeback fashion. They were down 7-3. They put up a 3 spot in the first inning. Reds put up a 4 spot in the first inning. Then they put up a 3 spot in the second. It was 7-3. Then the Mets put up a 3 spot in the fourth. Added 1 on in the fifth. It was 7-7. Then 8-7. Then 9-8. Then the Reds put up the Reds put up a run in the ninth. It was 8-8. 6, 7, 9, and then 7, 8, 9. So 9-9, and then each team put up a run in the 10th, 10-10, and then the 11th had the Mets putting up a 5 spot, which was 15-10, and the Reds put up a 1 spot in the 11th, 15-11. So you look at how the lineup went. Nimmo, who has been great after coming off the injury, batting .310. He went 5 for 2 with a walk. Alonso, who seems to be hitting fine even after the home run derby. You see sometimes guys tend to decline a little bit after home run derby. He hasn't. Soto's actually been better. McNeil looked good. Dom Smith having a little bit of a down year. He was able to get a hit. Nothing crazy. You just go through here. Conforto, who has been better. He hit the big home run against Pittsburgh. He hit the big home run last night again. He went 3 for 6. He's been better recently. He's still batting .217, but his last couple games have been better. And, you got to hope that maybe he has a second half turnaround if you're a Met fan. But, you look at the pitching for the Mets, and, Eekhoff had a tough game. I mean, he allowed 7 runs, 2 were earned. And the Mets obviously made 4 errors. And it was ugly. They were not fielding well. They made 4 errors. He allowed 7 runs. 2 of those were earned. 4 errors is not acceptable. Now, they were able to, clean it up a little bit here the rest of the way. One thing I noticed about the Mets is they did not allow a home run last night. They did not allow a home run last night. Now, we moved to Cincinnati. They allowed 7 home runs, including the starting pitcher allowed 3 home runs, Gutierrez. So the Mets, the long ball really helped last night. Now, the Mets you eliminate the long ball, you're talking about 11-2 loss with the Mets making, 11-1 or 2 loss with the Mets making 4 errors. And the 4 errors, they can't happen. It's got to be better. So the Mets, yes, last night was a big win, 15-11 extra innings. It was a good win. Are they still where they want to be? I would tend to disagree. But, making 4 errors, that's not good. But this Mets team did seem to have some life last night, especially coming back again. I guess you can kind of use that saying, don't count them out, because it seems like, they're finding a way. And, I mean, Lindor, who's on the IL, DeGrom on the IL. Lindor hasn't done much, but he's still on the IL. A lot of Met fans were hoping to see him maybe make a little bit of a second half turnaround, but he hasn't either. But the Mets got to find a way to continue to try to find ways to win, because they're only 2.5 up on the Phillies, 4.5 on Atlanta, and 6 on Washington, and 10.5 on Miami, which is crazy that the 10 games separate last place team to first place team, considering, let's just go to the AL East, 25 games separate Baltimore to Boston. That's unreal. Just crazy. 32.5 separate the Diamondbacks and when I saw Arizona Cardinals, my bad. The Cardinals and the Giants. They separate 32.5 games back. So this division's still close. I mean, you could say that the NL East is still completely up for grabs. I would say it's up for grabs between 4 teams: Mets, Phillies, Atlanta, Washington. It's up for grabs for those amount of teams. Phillies, Mets, I think, have the best chance. Washington, if they get hot, they have a better chance. Washington's in a difficult situation because they had a very hard schedule against the Padres, Giants, and then you had the Dodgers. They had a very tough schedule. But they're a team, too, that if they can get rolling, they're good. They obviously won last night like 18-0 against. They really dominated Miami. Atlanta, we'll see what they do at the trade deadline. Philly, I think now could all of a sudden be buyers at the deadline, especially if they continue to win. They're hot right now. They are on a roll. And they're doing it without some guys because they had a little bit of a COVID situation. They're doing it without some guys. Like Alec Boehm is out, who's been a pretty solid player for them, third base. Harper has had a good season. He did not make the All-Star game. I believe he was a snub, but he's had a good season. The Mets just got to continue to find ways to win because, you look at the Phillies and stuff like that. They're coming back. And the Phillies right now, they're 6 games back from a wild card spot. 4 in the loss column. 6 games back total. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if you don't win the division in the NL East, you might not make the playoffs. Because you might not be able to get that final wild card spot. Because that's either going to get held by the Padres, Dodgers, or Giants. So, you might not be able to get that final wild card spot. You might not. Now, if you don't win the division, I'm saying, because then you're going to need a team like the Padres or the Dodgers to just not win. So we'll see how it all goes, but yeah, definitely going to be fun down the stretch in the NL East. Definitely going to be fun down the stretch. I do believe that it's going to be exciting down the stretch, especially in the NL East, because those are going to be 3 teams I think could all have a really great shot at it, and whoever doesn't win that division, there's a good chance they ain't making the playoffs. Because Dodgers, Padres, or Giants probably will have that wild card spot. So, yeah, that's what I got for the Mets. Luis Rojas suspended. He'll serve his second game of the suspension tonight. And then he'll be back coaching the team tomorrow. All right, so coming up next here, I wanted to get to the Knicks offseason rumors. This has been something I wanted to get to for a little bit here. Obviously a big offseason ahead for the New York Knicks after coming off of a very successful season under Tom Thibodeau. His first season as coach, won NBA Coach of the Year, which was well-deserved. I thought he should have won it. He did. Totally agree with him winning it. The Knicks have a lot of options this offseason where to go. Number one, they need a point guard. And there's a couple of them out there and that they could be interested in. And let's see what they do. We'll be back with the Knicks coming up next here. Alrighty, so obviously the New York Knicks coming off of a very successful season. I would even say successful is a little bit of an understatement after what the New York Knicks did this season. Obviously, I don't have to repeat myself. But they got into the playoffs as a 5 seed eventually. We all know, lost to the Atlanta Hawks in 5 games, and that's way in the rearview mirror. That was at the beginning of June. So, they've been in the offseason now for about a month and a half here, and they haven't done anything yet. But that's because the NBA season's not done yet. Free agency isn't open. Trades haven't really happened. Negotiations really haven't started up yet. I do think a lot of what's going to go on in free agency is going to depend on what Kawhi Leonard's decision is, whether he opts into his contract or he opts out of his deal and becomes a free agent. But like we all know, Kawhi Leonard getting surgery, he might not even be that big of a name to go out and get because he might miss half of this year. Then he's going to be 31 years old coming off of an ACL injury. Who knows what teams decide to do in terms of Kawhi Leonard. And the New York Knicks, I would say, out of a lot of the NBA teams out there, in terms of some of the teams that have big off seasons ahead, like the Philadelphia 76ers, what are they going to do with Ben Simmons? The Lakers, what are they going to do? Are they going to keep Anthony Davis? He's kind of he's not a reliable player because he's been injured a lot. Are the Portland Trailblazers going to give up, a Damian Lillard? What are the Pelicans going to do? Are they going to go out on Are they going to go all out and try to get Kyle Lowry? We heard they might be interested in him. Are they going to be okay with Lonzo Ball going somewhere else? I think it's a long shot, but do you do anything with Zion? I mean, if there's a deal in place, do you get rid of him? I don't think you will. But there's always a question there with the Pelicans. What do they do, especially with their new coach? What's kind of their plan? And then you even go out to some of these other teams that might not be as big as a story of mine, but like, what do the Pistons do? They have the first overall pick. Do they just strictly build around? More than likely, they're going to draft Cade Cunningham if they decide to keep the first overall pick. Do they decide to build around Cade Cunningham? Do they maybe go out and get a couple other free agents? What do? They're one of those teams, too, that you might want to keep an eye on. Clippers are a big team, obviously, with Kawhi. And if Kawhi leaves, I think Paul George will probably be right behind him in leaving. Or at least they'll look to trade him. But I think out of all of the teams in the NBA right now, out of all the teams, you look at, like I just mentioned, the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans possibly going out and getting some other guys. The Pelicans, maybe losing Lonzo Ball. You look at the Raptors, a team who, looks like they might show interest in kind of rebuilding. And a team like the Warriors, there's been some rumors that they might go out and get Pascal Siakam and give up James Wiseman and go out and get, a guy like a Siakam. There's so many, different rumors, and there's so many different things that, you could say, that could happen. And every year I do feel like we go through this, but that's just how we are as sports fans, brainstorming things that could happen, right? In the NFL, you always brainstorm things that could happen. We've been doing it for the past 3 months with Aaron Rodgers. We've been doing it with Deshaun Watson. Me as a Jet fan, when I first thought that Deshaun Watson was going to be a Jet, I was brainstorming trade ideas, thinking things like that. We've all done it with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, is he going to go to the Broncos? Is he going to stay at the Packers? What would a trade look like? We always do this. And that's the exciting part of the offseason, right? Because sports, it's all about the season, right? It's all about the season, the playoffs, the championship, all that stuff. That's all it's all about. But the offseason, it's also very exciting too. The offseason is going to be exciting, especially for certain teams. Now, this year, as a Net fan, do I think the Nets are going to go out and make major moves? No. As a matter of fact, I think the Nets are going to have a very quiet offseason. The one thing the Nets have to really do this offseason is decide what they're going to do with Spencer Dinwiddie. I'll talk about that another day. That's a different story, different day. But if you're a Knicks fan, there's some big decisions that the New York Knicks are going to have to make today. Or not today, but throughout the rest of the offseason. You know what I'm saying. They're going to have to make some big decisions. Now, every year we do go through this with the New York Knicks. And that's why I think some Knicks fans are not fully believing it yet. Let's go out and get this guy. Let's get this guy. Every year we know that, right? KD and Kyrie, they were supposed to go to the Knicks, right? We all knew that. Zion Williamson, now this isn't the Knicks' fault. The lottery, obviously, but Zion Williamson was supposed to be a New York Knick, right? So we all know how it goes. We all know how it plays. We all know how it's been working for the New York Knicks. For the past 3-4 years, every year they are expected to get the big guy. Kawhi Leonard, right? When he was a free agent, everyone's like, oh, maybe the Knicks. Could the Knicks get him, right? No. Damian Lillard this year, everyone's like, oh, the Knicks, maybe the Knicks. We'll see. Colin Sexton has been a name. Maybe the Knicks. Then you look at guys like, KD and Kyrie, who when they were free agents, everyone was like, oh, the Knicks. It was partially confirmed, and they didn't go to the Knicks. So every year we do go through this with the New York Knicks. But I feel like this year it's a little different because the Knicks, now that they made the playoffs, now that they finally got the head coach that they needed, Tom Thibodeau has been a great coach in his first year. He has done everything right. He checked off all the boxes. I mean, when he got hired, I don't think there was many Knicks fans that thought he was going to have this much success in his first season. Now, I think Knicks fans expected to see improvement. I think they expected to see guys like R.J. Barrett make strides, guys like that be better. But I don't think many Knicks fans expected them to be a 5 seed this season in the playoffs. So I think that's why it's a little different this offseason with the New York Knicks, is because now that they have a head coach that's well respected throughout the locker room and seems to be well respected throughout the league, I feel like the Knicks might now draw in some of the bigger free agents. Now, am I saying they're going to go out and get 4 of the biggest free agents out there? No. But do I think they might get a bigger name go in there than when originally they signed Julius Randle? Yes, because when Julius Randle signed, that was kind of just like a consolation prize. Because the big signings that year were Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. The consolation prize was Julius Randle. If you didn't get them, you would get Julius Randle. And they did. Now, Julius Randle's been great. He had a great year for the Knicks. I'm just saying that as an example. This year, the big free agents are, if Kawhi is out, Chris Paul. Are the Knicks going to go out and get Chris Paul? What the Knicks need this offseason. Before Knicks fans, because Knicks fans love to do this, and I get it. I do it all the time. I did it this year with the Jets a little bit. With all the money we had, I thought of many different situations. Now, I thought of realistic ones. I did not think of the Jets going out and trading for Patrick Mahomes, right? I thought of realistic possibilities. Now, one of the things that, I thought of realistic possibilities. So the Knicks, obviously, if you're a Knicks fan, you got to think of realistic possibilities. Going out and getting Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, trading for Damian Lillard, getting Colin Sexton, that's not realistic. What the Knicks need to do before they do anything else, before they even go out and think about a big man or think about another forward or think about a wing or thinking about a shooter, what they need to do first. Because those are not big priorities. I mean, those are not main things, right? You got to think Mitchell Robinson, if he stays healthy, he can be a solid player. He can be. We've seen it. We've seen him be. If he could stay healthy, he is a very solid player for the New York Knicks. If he could stay healthy. We'll see. What the Knicks need this offseason is a point guard. That's what they need. They need a point guard that can facilitate. They need a point guard that's going to be able to shoot. They need a point guard that can really take control of a game. That's what they need. So as much as you might want to say, I want this guy and I want this guy, all the Knicks really need, the Knicks are one or two pieces away from being a serious contender. And I'm not talking about an NBA Finals contender. I'm talking about where at the beginning of the season, people are considering the Knicks as a 6 or 5 seed. Right? Last season, people expected the Knicks not to make the playoffs, but that's an accurate prediction because they're going to a first year with a new head coach. I think we all expected them to be better, but not 5 seed good. Now that they've made the 5 seed, now that Tom Thibodeau has proven he could lead a team like the Knicks to the playoffs, I think now them getting a point guard could really help big time. And like I mentioned, I won't believe it until I see it because all these years with the Knicks, I won't believe it until I see it. Whether they go out and get Lillard or go out and get a guy like that, I don't believe it until I see it. In terms of, I don't believe the Knicks are going to go out and get all these players until I see it. Okay? Now, I should probably change what I said there, change my wording a little bit. Do I believe that the Knicks are going to go out and be active and talk to a lot of these guys and negotiate? Yes, I do. Because that's not been the Knicks have always done that. It's just been the Knicks have never been able to get that guy. They've never been able to get the big name player. Right? They've never been able to get the prize of free agency. They've always gotten the consolation prize, not the big prize. Now, there are some notable free agents. I mean, Chris Paul. I mean, if the Suns win the NBA, I don't know if it's going to make any difference whether or not the Suns win the NBA Finals or not. I mean, there's maybe a chance if they win the NBA Finals, he wants to run it back with the Suns and try to do it again. Maybe if they do win the NBA Finals, he got his final ring. Now let me try to go somewhere else and try again. I don't know if that's going to make any difference, but Chris Paul's a big name. I mean, he would be a perfect fit for the Knicks. But like I said, that's also if the Knicks are willing to go out and give him a big deal. I mean, Chris Paul, especially after this season, I think he's going to want a lot of money. Damian Lillard is a guy that I think a lot of people have to kind of calm down a little bit when talking about him. Because the chances of the Knicks getting Damian Lillard. Now, if the Knicks get Damian Lillard, I mean, you're talking about, okay, we're getting serious here. If the Knicks go out and get Damian Lillard. But Damian Lillard, personally, as much as people say that he wants out, as much as people say that the Trailblazers will look to get rid of him, as much as people say all that, I believe that Damian Lillard probably won't get traded. And he said that a couple days ago. There is video proof of him saying, I have not requested a trade. There was a report that came out a couple days ago that said he was requesting a trade. Later that day, he had an interview. He was on USA Basketball. I think it was either a post-practice interview or a post-game interview. And they asked him a question on if he's requested a trade. And he said no. He has not requested a trade. He says he plans on playing for the Trailblazers next season. Now, that could also be him just saying, that could also be him just not trying to make it public. That could be him not trying, instead of sitting there and saying, oh yeah, I requested a trade, I want out of there, and creating this whole, mob of media all over him. He could have kept it low and said, no, I'm not requesting a trade. Jack Eichel kind of did that too with the Buffalo Sabres. Deep down inside, we all know he wants to go. Did he come on air and publicly say, I'm done with this team? No. He did show his frustrations, but he never said, I'm done with this team. I hate this organization. I'm leaving. Deep down inside, do I think he would rather play for another team? Yes. I don't know how Damian Lillard is, but it's kind of one of those situations. And that's where the Knicks kind of have to sit here and kind of play it a little bit by ear. Like, if they get the feeling, if they get the reports, if they get the sense that, you know what, Trailblazers are looking to trade him and he might want to get traded, then you go all out. And I truly think that if the Knicks, if Damian Lillard becomes available, you go all out for him. And I believe out of most of the other teams out there that would be interested in Damian Lillard and be willing to make a deal for Damian Lillard, the Knicks would have the best offer they could put on the table. They have a lot of really good young players. They have a lot of draft picks. That's really all you need. Young players and draft picks is what the Trailblazers are going to want for Damian Lillard. I think the Knicks could put one of the best deals on the table out of any of the NBA teams to go out and get Damian Lillard. I think they could put the best deal on the table, personally, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. We'll see how it goes. They could honestly put the best deal on the table for Damian Lillard. Young stars, young players that are coming up and, playing better, draft picks. Maybe you throw a veteran in there. Maybe you throw a veteran in there. Now, some people think that maybe Julius Randle would have to be in the deal. I don't know. That's another question this offseason. Is Julius Randle going to want a big payday this offseason? Is he going to get kind of a little pushy for a contract? Is he going to wait it out? Is he going to see how the offseason goes? I will say this, that I do think the Knicks this offseason do make a move. I think the Knicks have to make a move. You can't leave the point guard position ignored for another season. You just can't. You can't sit here and tell me that the Knicks can just leave the point guard position alone for another offseason. You can't do that. You have to go out and get another point guard. As much as Derrick Rose was really good for the Knicks in the playoffs in the short time that he was there last season, he's older. He's not the same player, right? He's not going to go out there every night and be able to play point guard and be able to put up 40 minutes for you. The Knicks need a point guard. That's why I believe they will make a move, is because that's like a need. Like, they need that. Wants Kawhi Leonard. Like, they might want Kawhi Leonard. Do they need him? I think they need a point guard more than a forward. That's a want. Like, Kawhi Leonard's a want. A need is like a Colin Sexton. A need would be a Damian Lillard. I think the Knicks, in terms of what I think the Knicks, honestly, Chris Paul's a need, right? Chris Paul would be a need. He might also be a want. Like, you might want Chris Paul. Well, like Kawhi Leonard, I think Kawhi Leonard's a want for a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams might be like, oh, we don't need a forward, but Kawhi Leonard, come join our team. We'll see how Kawhi Leonard. We'll see what Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's not a free agent yet. He is a player option. He could wait. He could wait this whole thing out and all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm gonna opt out of my deal, and then all of a sudden he gets all these deals. He could wait, or he can make an announcement really early, sign a deal, and boom. Right? We'll see how it goes. The Knicks need to address the point guard position, though. There's no doubt about that. Whether that's going Chris Paul, whether that's trying to trade for Damian Lillard, whether that's going out and getting a young guy like a Colin Sexton, whether that's going out and getting Lonzo Ball, who has shown improvement. It would be a low-cost addition. Maybe instead of giving Lonzo Ball a big 3, 4, 5-year deal, maybe you give him a 1 or 2 year deal, and it's kind of maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. Maybe you give him a team option after the 1 year, and if he has a terrible first year, you just get rid of him. Maybe you give him a player option. If he doesn't like it in New York, if it's just not working out, he could opt out, go somewhere else. Because as much as I think Lonzo Ball has improved, he's done it in a small market. I think Lonzo Ball is a small market type player. Nothing wrong with that. He played in a big market in LA with the Los Angeles Lakers. Didn't work out. He's in a small market now with the New Orleans Pelicans. It's going better for him. Coming to a big market, New York, the media. I don't know how that would work out. As much as Knicks fans might want to get him, you also got to look at the big picture. Lonzo Ball might just be a small market player. And that's okay. There are guys that are just small market players. Guys just can't handle the media. Guys can't handle the bright lights in the big city and all that stuff. Guys can't handle that. He had a tough time in LA. He's doing much better in New Orleans. If he were to come to New York and play for the Knicks, I don't know how that would play out. in terms of him just putting his best performance out there. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But Knicks have to address the point guard position. You have to. You have to address the point guard position. Knicks have a point guard, they might win that series against the Atlanta Hawks. Who knows? Maybe the Knicks shock all of us and go out and sign this guy that we did not see coming. But I do think with Tom Thibodeau being well-respected a lot in the locker room, guys seeing what he's doing, changing the culture there, I do think there might be some other players that, might want to come to the Knicks now. Like the Knicks were never really, when David Fizdale and Jeff Hornacek were the head coach, those were guys that not many players wanted to play for. Like you didn't join you didn't go into free agency saying I want to play for David Fizdale or I want to play for Jeff Hornacek. Now, truly, I do believe that Tom Thibodeau, being a well-respected coach, I think there are a lot of guys that might say, you know what, I like what Tom Thibodeau is building over there. Let's see what the Knicks got going for him. And, we'll see. Now, Tom Thibodeau is building a new culture. It'd be interesting to see if he's, building with young guys. Right, that's the whole thing with Thibodeau, too. Would Thibodeau be okay with going all out on Damian Lillard? Because I feel like, in a way, as much as I think the Knicks fans and all them want to win, you got to see what Thibodeau's kind of building. Because if Thibodeau is kind of building off of young guys, developing young guys, getting Damian Lillard is going to be the opposite of that. That's going to be the opposite of going out and getting the young guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, as much as you might want to go out and get Damian Lillard, if Thibodeau's plans to kind of develop the young guys and, see what they can do, Damian Lillard is completely defeating that plan. Right? And he's kind of trying to build his own culture. Going out and get Colin Sexton, that would be maybe for Thibodeau's plan if it is building. I don't really know his full plan. I don't know what he's kind of really doing. I think part of him does want to see the young guys develop. I also think part of him, would love to get another guy over here and work with a big name player. I know Lonzo Ball in terms of scheme fit and stuff like that. I know a lot of people would love that move, a low-cost addition. But the issue is can he be your point guard for the next couple years here? And Lonzo Ball has proven to be better, but I don't know if he's proven to be the lead point guard for the New York Knicks. And a team that all of a sudden went from, kind of rebuilding to just trying to win some games to being legit playoff contenders. And we'll see what they do in the offseason. But they need to address the point guard. And whether that's going out and getting Damian Lillard, whether that's going out and getting Colin Sexton, whether that's going out and getting Lonzo, whether that's going out and giving Chris Paul a big payday, whatever it is, the Knicks need to address the point guard. And I think if you have the chance to get Damian Lillard, you get Damian Lillard. But it's up to the Knicks. Like I said, I ain't the Knicks GM. If I was the Knicks GM, I would go out and get Damian Lillard. If I was Leon Rose and all that, I would go out and get Damian Lillard. That's what I would do. I would not, I know a lot of Knicks fans might want Lonzo Ball. I know there's some that want Lonzo Ball over Damian Lillard because Lonzo Ball's a low-cost addition. You're not going to need to give up R.J. Barrett and a bunch of other picks and maybe Manuel quickly. But, you're getting a superstar when you get Damian Lillard. You're getting a guy that can go out and give you 50 points a lot. You're getting a guy that's going to be able to put up 28, 29, 30 points per game. You're getting a guy that probably will be in the MVP conversation. I'm not saying he's going to be top 3, but he'll be in the conversation. You're getting a guy that's going to make your team go from here to all the way up here. We'll see how it goes. But, I think the Knicks could take many different routes to this offseason. And I think it's going to be a very exciting offseason for the New York Knicks. And I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason as well. Whether they go all out, give a big payday, we'll see. I definitely think that the Knicks are in a different situation because of their coach. I genuinely think that. They are in a different situation with their head coach. Because no NBA player is like, oh, I want to play for David Fizdale. There's definitely some guys out there that have, there's, the Knicks put the NBA note, the Knicks this season shocked the league. The players saw it. Players obviously saw that, the players obviously saw that they see what Thibodeau's putting out there. They see what, players are doing. They see what he's been doing. Players catch on to that. That's always how it is with social media and technology these days, like, it's not like players after games and stuff, they like you're not always just focused on your team, and nothing else. Like, players see what's going on around the league. They watch games. They stay up to date on news. A lot of these guys, I'm sure, saw what Tom Thibodeau did this year with the New York Knicks, and I'm sure a lot of them, or some of them might be saying, I want to be a part of that. I like what he's building over there. I want to be a part of that. The Knicks just got to find a way to come to a deal with that player or those type of players. We'll see. Alrighty, so let's get to the New York sports update and finish off this Tuesday edition of the podcast. Alright, yesterday in the MLB, the Giants won, Diamondbacks won, A's won, Cheaters won, Cardinals won, Red Sox won, Tigers won, White Sox won, Orioles won, Nationals won, and Twins won. Nationals won 18-1, by the way. The Marlins were able to put up a run in the 8th inning. So, Nationals got the win. Soto went 3 for 4, 5 RBIs. His average is now up 301. Trey Turner went 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs. 9 RBIs combined between Soto and Turner. 9 RBIs. Half of the RBIs for the Nationals last night were between Juan Soto and Trey Turner. You can make the argument of the 2 biggest bats in that lineup. Trey Turner obviously hit for the cycle a couple weeks ago, and Soto's one of the rare players coming off of the Derby. He's actually hitting better coming off of the Derby. You sometimes see guys struggle a little bit coming off of the Derby. Soto's doing the opposite. He's rolling right now. Mets obviously won yesterday 15-11. They moved to 49-42 on season, as I mentioned earlier. And as for today, we got the A's and the Angels. I'll give A's the win. Brewers, Royals, give Brewers the win. Nationals, Marlins, definitely giving the Nationals the win. Blue Jays, Red Sox, give Red Sox the win. Reds, Mets, get to that in a second. Rays, Orioles, give Rays the win. Tigers, Rangers, give Tigers the win. Padres, Braves, give Padres the win. Cheaters, Indians, give Cheaters the win. Twins, White Sox, give Twins the win, or White Sox the win, rather. Cardinals, Cubs, give Cardinals the win. Rockies, Mariners, give Rockies the win. Pirates, Diamondbacks, give Pirates the win. Dodgers, Giants, I'll give Dodgers the win. Alright, so let's get to the Mets. Mets play today. They come in this game 49-42. Reds come in this game 48-46. This game goes on today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Bally Sports Ohio, and you can find this on SNY. The Mets got Stock on the mound. He's 0-2 with a 7.88 ERA, and the Reds got Wade Miley on the mound. He's 7-4 with a 2.80 ERA. 59% of people think the Reds will win. I do think the Reds win this game. Miley's been good this season. Mets, their pitching's just been iffy. I think the Reds win this game. As for the Yankees and the Phillies, Yankees come in this game 48-44. Phillies come in this game red hot 47-45. This game goes on today 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time on MLB Network and the Yes Network. Let's see here. Phillies got Aaron Nola on the mound. He's 6-5 this season with a 4.53 ERA. And the Yankees got Domingo Germán on the mound. He's 4-5 with a 4.72 ERA. Let's see. 55% of people think the Phillies will win this game. This is kind of a tough one. I think just, the Phillies being red hot right now, them playing like this is like these games, like this stretch of games right now, like before the deadline is almost like playoff games for them, trying to make a push against the Mets. Really, whether or not they're going to be buy or sell at the deadline. If they let's say these win these 2 games and you sweep your next series, whoever that's against, or whatever it is their next series, you win 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, all of a sudden you're like 6-1 your last 7, and you go into the All-Star break 4 games above 500, you're talking, or All-Star break, deadline, rather, trade deadline, you go into that, like, you're all of a sudden buyers. You're going out and getting some other guys. You're going out and getting some big bats. As much as the Yankees have played much better recently with, some of the no names, I don't know. It's so tough to give a win here. I think the advantage in terms of momentum, I think, would have to go to the Phillies. And that's just because they are rolling right now. I guess I'll just give the Yankees the win. Why not? I mean, they're 0-2 against the Phillies this season. I mean, the Phillies hit Herman last time they played him. I guess the Phillies, I don't know. It's tough. It's a toss-up. I guess I'd give the Phillies the win just because they have good history against Herman, I guess. I don't know. I could see it either way, though. We'll see how it goes. As for today, we got in fantasy baseball. I'm currently winning 36-20. Today I've got going out here Molina, Matt Olson, Jay Cronenworth, Austin Riley, Marcus Semien, Gene Segura, Jesus Aguilar, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Avisail Garcia, Josh Harrison, and Franmil Reyes. I got Luis Garcia on the mound and James Krapilian on the mound for today. So I got 2 pitchers today going, and I've got some injury updates to report in terms. I've got a couple of injury update reports, both Tampa Bay players. So we'll get to Tyler Glasnow first. Glasnow elbow continues to feel good after playing light catch. Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times reports. So good news there. He's progressing. And Margot hamstring is feeling better but isn't likely to return until at least next week. Mark Topkin of Tampa Bay Times reports. So that's, I guess, decent news, I guess, because, next week, right, him returning there, that's solid. It would be something if they said return in a couple more weeks. That'd be something different. But, next week, about a week from now, he'll be returning, which is good. No updates on Voit. I'm still waiting to put Voit on the IL. It's kind of funny. Well, nah, I probably won't. But Voit, this whole time he's on the IL, he hasn't been on my IL. I'm not going to drop Voit, though, just because, I don't know really what to do, honestly, when Voit comes back because, I'm going to have to figure out who to drop. I'm benching Correa today. I'm not going to play Correa. This is a guy who in his past, 4 games, has got me, negative 10 points. He's been striking out. He is in a very big slump right now. So I sat him, and I put in Gene Segura. I don't really know what else to do. I mean, it's just bad. It's really bad. I put him in the lineup yesterday. Thought maybe he would do something, break out of it, get a hit, get something, and he's not doing anything. So benching him. I'm not going to drop him. I'm not going to trade him, but I'm going to bench him. And until he starts hitting again, he's not going to be in my lineup because he's only hurting me. He's only hurting me with the strikeouts and not having good at-bats and stuff like that. So Segura will be in there today for me. Marcus Semien and all that stuff. So we'll see how it all goes. And wow, we just got news here. Cam Akers tears his Achilles. So Cam Akers, Rams lose their leading rusher a week before training camp after brutal injury. So Rams running back Cam Akers tore his Achilles per Tom Pelissero. That is really bad. This is a guy, too, who I predicted to have a big year, and he's done. So the next man up for the Rams backfield include Darrell Henderson, Raymond Callis, and Jake Funk. Available free agents include Adrian Peterson, Duke Johnson, Deion Lewis, Lamar Miller, and Le'Veon Bell. So he tears the Achilles. So, that's bad. That is really, 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 really bad. Torn Achilles is done. He's done for a season. He's done. He's done before the season even starts. And I predicted, too. I said that out of all the guys, I said that he was going to have a big year. I predicted him to have a breakout season. And he is now done. So, torn Achilles, he's done. And he probably won't be back until next season. Or how long the recovery takes. Kevin Durant he missed the rest of the playoffs. And then he'll miss the entire year. And I don't even really want to start with, maybe he'll come back for playoffs. No, he'll miss the entire season. That torn Achilles takes about a year to recover. So, even sometimes a little bit more than a year, but it's about a year to recover from a torn Achilles. So his season's done. And, yeah, that's not good. That's not good for him. That would be another topic that I could probably talk about there. So, but anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. It was another good podcast in the books. A lot of football coming up here, training camp, and a lot of other news, obviously, like that. So that should be good. But yeah, as always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.